Hello, grade 7. How are you? Good? We spoke previously, if you remember, about microorganisms. Do you remember this? Yeah. We spoke about microorganisms, and then we know there are three large groups or kingdoms, which are very good: fungi kingdom, Monera kingdom, and Protoctista kingdom, right? Today, grade 7, we are gonna speak about viruses. We are gonna speak about viruses. I know that at grade 7, all of you have a lot of questions nowadays about viruses. You want to know more about, right? So, today I'm gonna tell you about some informations about these viruses. Let's know more about together. Viruses do not have a cell structure. They don't have cell structure, and they can be stored like specimen for many years without changing. Like coronavirus nowadays, surely. I can take it and store it like a specimen, okay? And it can be put as a specimen for many years. And if I come after many years and see it, I will not find any changing. And you know what? During this time, they don't feed, respire, or excrete. During they are stored, they don't feed, respire, or excrete. So the question is, when do they feed, respire, and excrete? When they find what? Okay? So, when they are placed on living tissues, they enter the living cells and reproduce. So, they feed, respire, and excrete, then they reproduce when they are placed on living tissues. They have to be placed where? On living tissues. For example, us, the people, right? For example, the plants, all the living things, they have to be on living tissues in order to reproduce. They destroy the cells in the process and may cause disease. When they reproduce, I'm going to show you a diagram after minutes that show you how they destroy the cells. They destroy the cells in the process and they may cause disease. And each kind of virus attacks certain cells in the body. Each kind of virus attacks certain cells in the body. Let me give you examples. For example, the cold virus attacks the cells that line the inside of the nose. Attacks the cell that line where? The inside of the nose. The destructive action of the cold virus on the cells on the nose makes the nose run. The destructive action makes the nose run. Why? Because this process destroys the cells. Okay? This is the diagram that I told you about, and this is how a virus reproduces. Let's start from up in the left. The virus sticks to the membrane of a cell. Sticks where? To the membrane of a cell. You see it? This is the virus. It wants to enter the cell. In the other one, it enters now the cell. The virus enters the cell. The protein coat, the virus is coated with a protein. Okay, this protein coat breaks down and releases the DNA. The DNA of the virus now is released where? Inside the cell. You can see down in the third picture from the left, the viral DNA divides and directs the cell to make new protein coats. They make new protein coats. And now we have a lot of viruses. They reproduce. After reproducing, the last step they do what? The cell wall breaks down to release the new viruses. The cell wall breaks down to release the new viruses, and here the cell is broken, right? In addition to the common cold, different viruses also cause influenza, chicken pox, like the picture down one in the left, the first one, this chicken pox, measles, this is the other one, and rabies, and can lead to development of AIDS. It can lead to the development of AIDS. Here are some examples for some diseases that caused by viruses. Now we finish speaking about viruses. Let's speak together about decomposers, which you know about since grade 5 and grade 6, if you remember. So let me tell you more about these decomposers. Although people tend to think of microorganisms as harmful, the majority of them are not. Not all of the microorganisms harmful. And indeed, they play a very important part in ensuring that life on Earth continues, in order to help life on Earth continue. For example, when plants and animals die, their bodies would remain unchanged if there were no bacteria and fungi. Can you imagine that? If each animal and plant that die, then their bodies didn't change, what would happen? Yeah, we couldn't live. Their bodies would remain unchanged if there were no bacteria and fungi, right? These microorganisms feed on the dead bodies. They feed on the dead bodies and rot them down. They rot them down. Minerals from the body tissues are released into the soil. In this process, minerals from the body tissues are released into the soil in this process and become available for plants to take them up in their roots. They will be available for the plants to take them up with their roots, right? The plants build the minerals into their own bodies as they grow. They build the minerals into their own bodies as they grow. And perhaps in time, they pass into animals' bodies. Why? Because most of animals feed on the plant, and even the animals that don't eat the plants, it eat the other animals that is already eat the plant, right? So in time they pass into animals' bodies when the plants are eaten. You got it? Your grade 7? Okay. Here down I have an example for some microorganisms that help in rotting down the dead plant. Here the minerals are used to build up the animal's body as it grows, or take part in processes that keep the animal alive. The minerals used to build up the animal's body as it grows, or take part in processes that keep the animal alive. Without microorganisms, a grade 7, the minerals in plants and animals would be locked up in their bodies when they died and wouldn't become available for new living things. So microorganisms ensure that the minerals that living bodies need are recycled. Are what? Recycled. They take it, they rot it, and then they will be available in the soil. The plant will come and take it from the soil. Then the animal will come and eat it from the plant. Then the animal will die. These microorganisms will come and feed on this and make the minerals available for the plant again. So this is recycled, right? And that's it, what I want you to know about decomposers. Now let me give you small information about Louis Pasteur. Do you know about this person? Yeah, I know that you know about. He is Louis Pasteur. It's in your books, page 63 and 64. You can see it and read more information about. Here I'm gonna just give you some information about him. Louis Pasteur was a French scientist who made many discoveries about microorganisms. He made what? Many discoveries about microorganisms. When he began his work, many people believed that living things could spring up from non-living materials. Living things come from where? From non-living materials. This idea was called spontaneous generation. This idea was called what? Spontaneous generation. It was also used to explain that some forms of this emerging new life made liquids like wine and broth turn bad. These emerging new life made liquids like wine and broth turn bad. Louis Pasteur, grade 7, investigated how broth turn bad in the following way. When I say turn bad, I mean it's full of microorganisms. As he knew that heat could kill anything that might be living in it at the start, he then heated the neck of the glass flasks. He what? Heated the neck until they were soft and pulled them out into a long, thin, curving tube called a swan neck. The broth in the flask didn't go bad. Now there was no microbial growth. You can see down this sterile broth at the start. This is the broth, and this is the swan-necked flask, and the broth didn't go bad. The broth didn't go bad. There was no change. Then he broke open one of the flasks and exposed the broth to the open air. When he opened it to the air, the broth went bad. When he opened it to the air, the broth what? Went bad. This made him conclude that there was something in the air that was making the broth go bad. There was something in the air that was making the broth go bad. In the swan-necked flasks, where the broth didn't go bad, this something might have settled in the bend of the neck and therefore not reached the broth. It showed that the broth only went bad when it received microorganisms and didn't produce them in the first place. So it didn't produce it itself. No, it received it from the air. The pasteurization of milk means that milk will stay fresher longer and can be transported further. This is one of the things that Louis Pasteur told us about. And heat kills living things, and the broth will go bad when it is in contact with air. Microorganisms cause insects to die and were responsible for cholera in chickens and anthrax in cattle and humans. Here are some examples for diseases caused by viruses and bacteria. I'm not gonna read it, you will read it alone. It will just help you in reading, okay? And that's it about our lesson today. We know more about microorganisms, we know more about viruses. Viruses are smaller, they don't show the characteristics of living things, they don't feed on the dead bodies of plants and animals, they don't reproduce by fission like bacteria, and they destroy cells as they reproduce, right? And we know the diseases that are caused by viruses. Then we know about decomposers, right? Grade 7, and that's it. Just you have homework in your workbook, pages 22 and 23. Good luck, grade 7.